I'd like to introduce to you someone that most of you people know, a good friend of ours and monster player. He took time out to be with us at our show today. We're very grateful. And let's give it up for Gary Hoey.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. How's everybody? Good? Yeah. All right. Well, it's great to be here. I'm Gary Hoey, and thanks for coming out on this Sunday to support this awesome event, the Northeast Guitar Expo. I think it's great, man, that this kind of event's happening. Just, to get musicians together to, exchange ideas and trade gear and music ideas. So I'll be here all day long. If I'm not here on the stage, guys, I'll be down in the corner in that main room in the far corner. If you guys want to come by my booth, I'll be hanging out pretty much all day long. So if anybody has any questions about music, about guitars, about career, about hair care products, whatever you guys want to talk about. I'm into gel, I love gel and stuff like that, but I've been in the music business for a long time, man. I had my first break in the early 90s, and I've had a long career in the music business, feeding 2 kids on rock and roll. My son Ian is here today with me. I'm so happy. He's a guitar player himself, and my daughter's a freshman at UNH. Feeding my kids on rock and roll, so it's been going great. I also write a lot of music for ESPN Sports, and some of the tracks you hear going on with X Games and stuff is me, and I love creating music for all kinds of events and different things like that. We've been very blessed to be able to make a living making music. So if anybody wants to talk about how to make a living making music, please give me some tips, man, because I'm struggling too. You never know. I always say in the music business, you're either struggling or you're juggling. There's no easy way out. But anyway, I'm going to hang out for a little while today. There's going to be several guitar players doing workshops on this stage during the day, so come out and support all the other players as well. And I'm going to play a song right now. Is that all right? Yeah. I'm just going to play a song, kind of warm up my fingers, and then we'll talk. If you guys have any questions about music or anything, that we can definitely get into that. I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can. And any that I can't, I'm going to turn over to Brian, because he has the big answer book under the stage. So answers to anything you need. All right, let me check my guitar out. I'm going to start off. I want to play a song for you that I wrote in 1997. It's a long time ago, wasn't it? It's a song called Peace Pipe from an album I did called Bug Alley. And I think right now, more than ever, we need some peace in this world. What do you guys think? Yeah. Right? Because peace never goes out of style, man. Peace is something that is always in style. And I think more than ever, we need it right now. So I thought I'll play Peace Pipe. Why not? I got my band on my iPhone because my drummer, he was late, so I just figured I'll just play with the iPhone. All right, here we go. So anyway, I wanted to start off seeing if anybody had any questions. You were going to ask me a question. We were walking in here, and I didn't get to answer you.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about, you're going to change the tuning to a lower D tuning, like type difference in King's X?
Yeah.
Do you have to change the way you do the chords?
So if you do like a drop tuning,
Yeah.
do you need to change the chords, like how you play the chords?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. If you're doing just like a simple, just drop D, tuning, which I do a lot, just kind of dropping the D down, the low E string down to the D. If you do that, then what you have to do is you just basically on the low strings you'll have to play, a different voicing, different fingering. But for the rest of the strings, you can just leave it the same way. Like I'll give you an example. Like if I take my low E string and I tune it down. So now I got that drop tuning. So now I can go. You know what I mean? So you get all that kind of grungy sort of sound, but now you're going to play, instead of playing like a root and a fifth kind of bar chord, you're going to play it with one finger. Okay? So all your low chords now, all your riffs are just going to be that one finger. So now you're going to be. All right, now if I play strings on the, if I play chords on the other strings, I can play the same thing. So if I was playing D minor, say, right? know, everything else is going to be the same, but that low string is going to give you that extra, you know, heaviness. And the riff. Is that cool? Good question, man. Anybody else have another question they want to ask? Yeah.
Well, you mix and match like gauges when you're dropping down like that, or you use tens or
string gauge?
Yeah.
I do use tens a lot. Yeah, I have tens on this today, but I do tune down a half step. I tune down to E flat. So, which is, you know, I started doing it years and years ago. Like I heard like Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan and a lot of musicians tuning down a half step. And at first I was kind of like, why are they doing that? And you know, I had a locking tremolo. I couldn't tune down, so I was playing all these half step keys. But I kind of like the sound. It's a little bit heavier, and it definitely helps with the vocals too, because all the notes are now a half step lower. So it's good to tune down a half step, you know, for vocals, and it makes the strings feel a little slinkier too. So you know, you can kind of mix it up. But I do also use 10 through 52 sometimes. There's a string. I use GHS strings, and they do have it's called a light top, heavy bottom, which has a heavier bass string. Sometimes I use those, but you know, my thing is, I think with guitar strings, it's important to use what feels comfortable to your hands. You know, it's a real misconception that you got to use really heavy strings if you play the blues, and you know, you got to use 13 gauge strings because Stevie Ray Vaughan did. I mean, you know, it's really more important to just get a good tone, you know, and a good feel. Eddie Van Halen was one of my favorite guitar players, you know, growing up, and he used nines. You know, 9 gauge strings. You know, Joe Satriani was another great guitar player, and he uses nines. So you know,
Yngwie's like 8 or something, I think. Yngwie's, I think.
And Yngwie Malmsteen, yeah, I toured with him. We did a tour together, the Guitar Gods tour, and I was hanging out with him backstage, and I'm like, he says, yeah, I use 8 gauge strings. I didn't even know they made them that thin.
On a scallop neck.
On a scallop neck too. So, you know, so there you go, man. It's, you know, it's really about when you're playing the guitar. What's important to do is to just not choke it off, if that makes any sense. You know, when you're playing guitar at first, when you're first starting to play, your hands are going to get tired, and your fingers are going to, you don't have the dexterity yet, so sometimes you overdo it, and it's hard to relax. But I think when you're playing leads and you're playing notes, like what I do is I play pretty lazy. You know, like what I mean by that is, you know, if you're playing a riff, you know, if you're playing something like, when you strike with your picking hand, you know, you want to don't be too hard with it, and with your left hand, you want to keep it, you know, keep your left hand loose, so keep your hands relaxed as much as you can with your fingering, and I think that'll help a lot. Any other questions, anybody? Yeah.
You said you do a lot of music for ESPN and other things. Do you ever put that music on CDs, or is it unavailable?
Actually, I don't. You know, a lot of the music that you create for TV and film, what happens is it becomes part of their license, part of their library. So with ESPN, what happens is, you know, I've done probably, I don't know, maybe over 50, maybe more than 50 different cues in different styles. Like they'll pretty much tell me, hey, we want like 15 tracks in this sort of vein. And then what they do is they put them in their library, and then they pick for it when they need it for different things like college football or whatever is going on. And but they don't release it to the public. They kind of use it as their backing track, I guess their library. So we never get to actually release that. But when they perform it on TV, then we get paid. You know, it's the gift that keeps on giving. So, you know, I've always said to musicians out there, get into writing music, man, because writing and creating music is something that's going to help so much. If you're going to stay in the music business and you're going to try to make a living, get out there and write music, write your own music, write for other people. You know, ESPN. You know, there's a ton of TV shows out there that are always looking for music. You know, I started working on a show called American Pickers. You guys have heard of that show? You know, you would not believe how many cues that they use for just one episode. It's like 150 little cues or something going on. So, if you're into making music, you know, make these little cues at home, like maybe 60 to 90 seconds long. They don't have to be super long. And you can, the people that you need to get your music to are called the music supervisors. The music supervisors are the ones that kind of decide which music goes in, and you know, get on the internet and start hunting these people down, and you can, you'd be surprised. You can get your music out there. I scored a movie called Endless Summer 2 many years ago in the early 90s, and I still get checks from that movie from countries I can't even pronounce, you know, just that is playing out there. So I'm just encouraging you guys to write music, because you know, writing music is definitely going to be the thing it's not only going to hopefully, you know, make you some money, but it's also going to satisfy your soul. Does that make any sense? You know, when you create music, it just feels so awesome to get a really good song done that you're really proud of and that people like, and that someone will, you know, will enjoy, and that's something that you created. I mean, how can you beat that, you know? So, you know, my advice on songwriting is, you know, what I do a lot when I write music is I just go into a room and I have a little digital tape recorder. It's made by Roland. It's called the Eterol. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. It's a little digital recorder. It's not cheap, but it will actually record at 24-bit if you want, or it'll record at MP3s. So what I do is I set up for MP3, and I can record hours and hours of music on this thing. So I have it sitting with me, and whenever I come up with a quick riff or an idea, I just hit record, and I throw down that idea on this little recorder. And then what I do is I record ideas for weeks and weeks, sometimes months, and then I don't go back and I don't listen to anything I recorded until I've had time to get away from it long enough that I won't remember anything I actually played. Because the reason you want to do that is it's really hard to be objective when you're creating music and think, is this any good, or it sounds like a song I've heard before. So give yourself a chance to get away from the music and then come back to it weeks later, listen to your music, take a folder and drag all the ideas that you thought were good into another folder, start collecting those little riffs and little ideas, and then you can start developing your songs, you know, because the thing about being a songwriter is it takes a lot of work, man, you know. They say it's like, what is it, 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration, you know, that phrase. It's so true, you know. If you want to write songs, it's easy to throw down the quick ideas, but then you got to go back and you got to sit and you got to work with those things, right? You got to sit and find the germs that sound good, and then you got to develop them, right? And a lot of people say to me, you know, Gary, I come up with these great riffs, but I don't know how to finish a song. Have you ever had that happen to you? So if you come up with a great riff, but you don't know how to finish a song, what you have to do is, you know, number one is study the masters. You know, study the masters, like study the Beatles, study the Doors, you know, Van Halen, study Zeppelin, like really go out and study these people. And what do I mean by study? What I mean is just take a notepad, you know, just take like a notepad and sit there and put on a song. And then I want you to write down the arrangement of the song. Like, write down what you think the arrangement is. Was it just verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus, bridge? You know, or was there an intro that wasn't something that never happened in the song before? You know, write down and start to study music and see how the pros are doing it and what kind of chord progressions they're using. Because the thing about chord progressions is don't get intimidated by chords, okay? We're all using the same chords. We're all using the same seven notes, right? So if you think about that, it's what you do on top of it, right? It's what you do with the music and how you sing over it and how you play the guitar and how the drummer plays. I'll give you an example. Like if I took a chord progression, you know, say I took a chord progression like this, right? Something like, or maybe like a, I'll tune back up. Say I go. Like when I hear that progression, right away I hear like the 50s. You know, I hear that. It's like all those songs, right? You can hear that progression and think, oh, that's the 50s. And then you can hear it, you can hear one love, one life. You know, now it's U2. Same chords, right? So keep in mind the chords really have nothing to do with what you're doing on top of it. It's just, you know, play what feels good to you. And then when you're creating music, put down as many ideas as you can. Like just throwing everything in the kitchen sink while you're creating music. Come up with a bridge, come up with a chorus, come up with an intro, and then later on go in and try and put everything together. Because now you all have computers, right? And you all have probably programs at home you can make music. When I was a kid, man, we had to save up like $400, go to the studio, we'd have 3 hours, the guy'd be yelling and screaming at us, you're almost out of time, and we had to just, you know, do it as fast as we could and get out with the recording. So, you know, there's a blessing to what you guys have now, because you can create music at home all day long. You don't need a record company to have a music career. You really don't. You can create your own music, you can start your own record company, you can put it out with a company called TuneCore, which I've already done 2 albums with TuneCore, and they put your music on iTunes for you, they put it on all the digital music stores, you pay them $10 a year, and then your music's on iTunes, and you can tell your mom and your sisters to go buy it over and over again. So I'm just giving you guys this advice, man, because, you know, I can show you some chords, I can show you a couple riffs, but what I really want to show you guys is how to find your passion. I've got to wrap it up here now, but I'm going to be hanging at my booth down in the corner. I'm going to be here all day. I think I'm going to come back up and do some more stuff, and you guys can come by and chat with me. Is there one more question you guys have? A last minute?
You mentioned in your writing process that you basically will sit down and just throw a lot of ideas down and record them. Do you ever switch it up and kind of go old school where you, if you're on tour with your band, out on tour, where you just start doing stuff in like sound check and start doing it as a band function, or do you basically do most of your writing by yourself, and then when you gather your band, this is the ideas and you filtered it down like you were saying?
Yeah, we do a little of both. I mean, that's a good question. We do sometimes when we're on tour, we'll be at sound check and I'll just start playing a riff and the drummer will jump in, and you know, and then I'll just grab my iPhone and hit record real quick or something. But yeah, that's like an inspirational thing, man, that I think happens. But I found you can get a lot in a room jamming with people, but sometimes for me anyway, for me personally, I have to sit down and come up with like riffs, you know, sometimes on my own to bring to the band and go, hey man, check out this cool riff I came up with, and then they'll get excited about it. But you got to be open for that too, which is just to get in a room and just jam and just play. But the main thing is you got to realize is your creativity is going to happen. Half of it's going to happen by accident. I'm telling you, man. You'll go to reach for a chord, and you'll hit the wrong chord. It'll be something different that you've never played before, and that's where you have to get that mindset and go in a room and be that 16-year-old kid again, you know, and just jam with your instrument and forget that, you know, you have a day job and, you know, 2 kids to feed and a daughter that's a freshman in college. You know, I have to forget about all that and just get in that room and have some fun, you know. But anyway, I'm Gary Hoey, everybody. Thanks so much for listening, and wish you all the best. I'll see you today. I'll be hanging out. God bless. Thank you.